He works himself into a state of crisis and distress, worrying that people are going to know he's a fraud and that his career is over.
A writer once said that he was too pudgy to look romantic or heroic.
I'm burning. My lungs are burning.
A man often cast as a supporting role and rarely the lead. One who didn't look anything at all like the other rising stars of his time, but also a man who never really cared.
The best you'll ever feel is when you've done a good job. That's as good as it gets.
See, it didn't matter what he looked like. It didn't matter how big of a role he was given. Be it a small indie project or a Hollywood blockbuster, he'd absolutely command the screen.
Philip Seymour Hoffman, ladies and gentlemen.
But he was phenomenal to work with.
You're goddamn right I am.
You make these characters interesting and they come alive.
Originally, he was the opposite of a pudgy, unathletic kid, carrying a passion for both wrestling and baseball, but after attending a stage production of Arthur Miller's All My Sons, he was completely mesmerized.
She took me to my first play. Be proud, Mom, because I'm proud of you. And her passions became my passions.
I mean, it had a similar camaraderie to sports. An ensemble stage play was like a well-oiled machine. After suffering a neck injury at the age of 14, his love of all things athletic would take a back seat to theater, and so he'd attend plays with his mother, join a drama club, and go on to attend NYU. However, what he'd discover is that in an industry so superficial, talent often goes hand in hand with appearance. You need to have the look, the leading man height, the chiseled jawline, the toned physique. Even if you have one or more, you're still in competition with thousands, all vying for the same role, all in pursuit of the same dream. So, for someone reflecting the everyman appearance, work was often scarce.
Even if you're auditioning for something that you know you're never going to get, or you might have read it and you might not even have liked it, but you know that you have to go, that if you get a chance to act in a room that somebody else has paid rent for, then you're given a free chance to practice your craft. And in that moment, you should act as well as you can, because if you leave the room or the theater or wherever you are and you've acted as well as you can, there's no way that the people who've watched you will forget it.
To support himself while auditioning and performing off-Broadway theater, he did a number of customer service jobs, but it wouldn't be long before his big break. Scent of a Woman was a massive critical and commercial success, and part of the ensemble was a young and eager Philip Seymour Hoffman.
Like I say, it was blurry.
He knows I'm old guard. You're fringe. He's gonna bear down on me and soft soap you.
And so he'd quit his customer service work and pursue acting full-time, catching the attention of famed directors like Paul Thomas Anderson.
I remember sitting in the theater and seeing that movie and just falling in love with Phil Hoffman. Whoever this guy is, I gotta have him, I gotta see him, I gotta know him. I gotta have this guy.
This would be the start of quite the lengthy career, and my goodness, what a career it was.
The Oscar goes to Philip Seymour Hoffman and Capote.
I could talk extensively about the dynamic range and character performances, the subtle anger and intense stares, the endearing vulnerability and existential despair, even at times authority and charm. This man was, in essence, a human chameleon.
I can tell you this, if he's starring in a movie, whatever character he's playing, it is going to be a bumpy ride.
One that didn't fit the traditional Hollywood standard. However, I think this was a blessing in disguise. See, traditional leading roles often carried an expectation. In an effort to be marketable, they'd carry some level of charm, wit, or authority.
Play long enough, you never change the stakes, the house takes you. Unless, when that perfect hand comes along, you bet big, and then you take the house.
Been practicing this speech, haven't
A
you?
little bit. Did I rush it? Felt like I rushed it.
No, it was good. I liked it.
Passive protagonists weren't all that common, so a lot of the leading men roles carried the same macho tough exterior paired with an underlying struggle. In Hoffman's case, he was usually a member of the supporting cast, characters who could be vastly different in any given film, ones that allowed him to explore different attitudes, expressions, and overall delivery, without being pigeonholed into a specific typecast.
These people that I was going to play were not me. The thing I had to look at was how were they similar to me and how were they different from me.
It was essentially a Hollywood miracle, but that's not to say he can't play the role of the assertive leader.
You've wandered from the proper path, haven't you? These problems you have?
Paul Thomas Anderson's The Master sees him as Lancaster Dodd, a charismatic and manipulative cult leader who handles every exchange with authority and an intense emotional delivery, be it the back and forth verbal sparring alongside Joaquin Phoenix's Freddie Quell.
Maybe hurt a man, I think. Maybe he's dead, I don't know. Where? In Salinas, he stole a batch of my booze and he drank it.
Are you a member of the Hidden Rulers?
I don't know what that is.
Any communist organization?
No.
Any invader force on this planet or anywhere else?
No, sir.
Or the way this character handles criticism in the face of his peers. This is my favorite scene from The Master. Hoffman begins with a subtle, self-assured delivery.
This is the vessel you're existing in now.
The entire room listening to every word with bated breath. It's clear he's effective in manipulating those with the potential to be influenced. But what happens when he runs into someone whose sole purpose is to sow doubt?
I still find it difficult to see the proof with regards to past lives.
Who has a rebuttal for every claim.
The Earth is not understood to be more than a few billion years old.
Well, even the smartest of our current scientists can be fooled.
Lancaster Dodd knows he's in a room full of his peers. He can't back down, especially with only one individual's opposition.
You can understand skepticism.
Yes,
can you not?
yes. For without it, we'd be positives and no negatives.
Yet, the more he humors the critic, the more his arguments fall apart. As he notices the room fade from eager interest to an apprehensive doubt, he grows more manic.
There's nothing I can do for you if your mind has been made up.
Assertive yet shaky in his delivery.
You seem to know the answers to your questions. Why do you ask?
Until eventually, the opposition breaks his facade.
Oh, if you already know the answers to your questions, then why ask? Pig.
He's left with no other option than to dismiss him entirely.
If you don't mind, a good night to you.
Then you have the no-nonsense character of Gust in Charlie Wilson's War.
You stood there and you listened to me?
I wouldn't stand at the door. Don't be an idiot. I bugged the scotch bottle.
What?
It's got a little transmitter on it. I got a little thing in my ear. Get past it.
This is a masterclass in physical delivery. Before he commands the room, there's often a slouched posture and measured pacing. He sets the tone before ever even delivering a line. Then there's the timing. He's a master of pauses, taking just enough time between lashing out or being criticized to let the moment sink in.
My loyalty? For 24 years, people have been trying to kill me. People know how.
If there's a comedic follow-up line, he'll let the tension fade before delivering.
I've spent the past 3 years learning Finnish, which should come in handy here in Virginia.
If there's a deflation in anger, he'll take a moment to gather himself.
Yeah, my friend, I'm gonna need you for a second.
There's almost never a lapse in dialogue. You get the feeling he's both conscious of his timing, yet operating entirely off of instinct. Despite rarely being the lead, he almost always steals the show.
Go yourself, you child.
You're gonna have the will to actually fail and look like an ass and probably be bad and all these things in front of people. You're gonna have to actually do that in order to be good.
I don't know if it's his unconventional appearance or his booming tone, but even in lighter-hearted films like Punch Drunk Love or The Big Lebowski, he manages to pair comedic delivery with an intense energy.
Now get the out of here, pervert! Didn't I warn you? That's that.
It doesn't feel like he's trying to make you laugh, but more so invested in being true to his character. But what about those with darker themes like that of John Patrick Shanley's Doubt? Hoffman's performance in this film rivals that of Meryl Streep.
You were trying to protect the boy.
That's right.
Arguably the greatest actress of all time. The film's title refers to both the ambiguity surrounding the allegations levied towards Father Brendan Flynn.
Did you give Donald Miller wine to drink?
No.
Mental reservations?
No.
You lie.
And the rattled faith of Sister Aloysius.
In the pursuit of wrongdoing, one steps away from God.
It leaves the priest's guilt open to interpretation, though it's often implied.
You should have let it alone.
Not possible.
However, throughout the film, Flynn is shown to be an empathetic, sincere, and persuasive individual.
When you are lost, you are not alone.
Approaching his students and clergy with gentle tones and open body language, he feels like less of a superior and more of a peer. But the dynamic changes when the accusations are brought to his attention.
You have taken vows, obedience being one. You answer to us!
Layers of fear, frustration, and resentment stand in stark contrast to how he behaves in the public eye. Hoffman and Streep deliver a masterclass in subtlety. There's a number of small hesitations and fleeting expressions. As Sister Aloysius picks away at his defense, it's hard to tell whether he's justified in his anger as a man wrongfully accused,
I'm not going to let her destroy my spirit of compassion.
or flooded with guilt and doing his best to overcompensate.
There's things I can't say, even if you can't imagine the explanation.
It's Hoffman at his best and most complex, yet my favorite performance is not necessarily his most well-known or his best, but it is the most sincere. Hoffman's portrayal of Wilson Joel in Love, Liza is one of my favorite performances.
Please let it go.
I need to go to the bathroom.
Now, it has some pretty heavy subject matter as it deals with the sudden passing of his wife and his inability to cope with life after such a loss.
Yeah, I know! I loved Will! I did! I loved Will!
All he has is a letter that she left him beforehand, which he refuses to open.
I don't want a fucking letter!
She left reasons, Will!
It's my name!
Hoffman portrays Wilson with both a childlike wonder and a desperate need to fill the empty void left by loss. This manifests in fumbling attempts to cope with his pain and awkward encounters with strangers. Other actions are self-destructive, the behavior of a man unable to come to terms with reality. Yet, despite the trauma, he does his best. There's something so endearing in the way Hoffman portrays a man whose attempts at connection are either forced or misguided.
I'll be right back. I want to talk.
Oh, we should.
Okay, yeah.
It creates this mixture of sweet and sad. It feels like the raw, unfiltered reality of someone drowning in sorrow. A man trying to perpetually escape his unbearable emotional weight and failing time and time again until he's forced to face reality.
Love, Liza.
It's been over a decade since his passing, and yet these performances have and will continue to stand the test of time. He is, without question, one of the greatest actors to have ever lived.
A mentor to a lot of actors like myself.
What was it like working with him?
Extraordinary.
A man unconventional in appearance, yet unparalleled in talent.
You make these characters interesting and they come alive. That's talent.
A man whose characters were so vastly different.
Philip's performances made us pay attention to strange or lonely, uncool, unusual.
Whose delivery could captivate any audience. He didn't really care whether or not he fit in, whether or not the world thought he was fit to be a leading man. He just wanted to perform. And although he left us way before his time, the legacy of Philip Seymour Hoffman still very much lives on.